Welcome, dear listener, to another episode of the Jeremiad podcast. As always, you're here with Tom and Andy. Andy, how are you?
How aren't I?
You aren't not dismayed by the state of society perpetually.
It's a constant cross on my back to bear, and I know you feel the same way.
I do feel the same way, Andy. It's sometimes it feels like a never-ending sort of stream of Jeremiad-worthy things constantly flow through life. Already in the short history of Jeremiad, we've tackled all the things from charities and their bullshit to social media and to football, but we wanted to focus on the little things. Sometimes life is about the little things.
Quite.
And it's about the shitty little things that really get to us. That
Grr.
sort of off the cuff wrath, that petty, doesn't really matter in any material way, but still somehow manages to get into my shoe like a little pebble. These tiny little pebbles that just break off and get into your shoe, and it's not a big deal. You just stop, take your shoe off, tip it out, and you get on with your life. But it leaves you feeling just full of anger and, frankly, in need of ranting on a podcast.
It produces within one a combustible irk. That
Hmm.
pebble, it's a minor inconvenience, but it's all the more annoying for being a minor inconvenience. I think that's part of the annoyance, is how minor the inconvenience it is, yet still it irks you so. Once you feel it there in your shoe, you're just conscious of it all the time then. It's hard to step away.
Yeah, it can be a pebble in the shoe. It can be a little eyelash in your eye. It can be a hair on your tongue. I get that quite a lot with my hair. I don't know if you do.
Not so much with hair, but with my very overgrown facial hair,
Mm.
absolutely. Obviously, you keep your tash well trimmed. Some people have said to me before, doesn't it get annoying when it gets in your mouth? Well, yes, it bloody well does get annoying. Not too long before beginning recording today, I was just finishing off a lovely peanut butter jam sandwich in great British tradition, and so often, honestly, it's like I need a mustache guard while eating one of them things. That jam gets everywhere. That's self-directed and recognised irk, which is a rarity.
Yeah, no, it's a rarity. I think we made some progress there, you know? So tell me, what is a little irk that really just gets to you in your bones?
Yeah, well, I mean, how long have you got? To start us off, I've gone middle of the road. You can't get more middle. But this is a two-parter, I suppose. You see someone walking on the pavement. Maybe they're walking ahead of you. Maybe you're tailing them. Maybe you're coming towards them. Maybe you're looking down from the window and you see them walking along. And they're walking bang smack in the middle of the pavement. They've got that low centre of gravity, like famed footballers who are able to dribble well and dally past many men. But these folk that just think it's acceptable to walk completely in the middle of the road so as to inconvenience any other pedestrian they might come across. And it just, I mean, have you no etiquette? You never taught right from wrong. Do you not have any inkling of what you're tasking other folk to do? How self-important are you? A god walking? Are you Odin himself? It boils my blood. And so the other side of that is when you get a group that are walking along on the pavement and they've decided to walk all in a row. They are like a walking barricade, moving slowly but eternally up the pavement and making it completely impossible for anyone else to pass, so as to push those that wish to pass onto the road and potentially into life-threatening situations. Would you think this is entourage? Is there paparazzi waiting behind that corner? Are they going to jump out and snap you for the latest edition of OK Magazine? Is this pavement yours? Am I mistaken? Is this private property? Do you own it?
When it's an individual, I think it just screams narcissism to
Yeah.
me. It kind of is sort of, this is my pavement. I'll walk wherever the hell I want. On the main road, right, you drive on the left. And I think there's an unspoken sort of agreement in society that you walk on the left as well. You kind of mirror what happens on the road to allow people to overtake.
Yeah.
Sometimes if people walk on the right, okay, it's acceptable as long as they're leaving somewhere for me to go around. It's the lack of awareness. I think some people are genuinely just so lost in their own world. They're probably, no doubt, hunched over, looking at their phone, scrolling through some bullshit on social media. But then, as you say, some of them, I think it's a power play. Well,
Look at
here I
me.
am. I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna take up the whole pavement. What are you gonna do about it? And then when it's a group and they're all, I know exactly what you mean. They're all astride, a perfect block on the pavement. And what do you do there when you're coming up behind? They're asking for trouble, really, is what they're doing.
Well, funnily enough, I did conduct a slight dab of research beforehand, and I found some good Reddit threads where people had floated this similar irk that others feel. Said, "What do I do in that situation?" And the majority response that kept on coming up and up was, "You just have to you adopt the statue method. You just stand there, still as hell, let them hit you." Now, not everyone wants to be so confrontational, but sometimes it's the only way that people will learn. Is that the state of this society, that it takes us resorting to aggressive, nigh on violent methods in order to move forward, figuratively and literally, as a people?
I think there's a lot to be said for that method, actually. I kind of have this a bit when I walk into university. I'm met with a flow of student traffic. And quite more often than not,
Cattle.
I'm going against the tide.
Yeah.
I'm going in the direction opposite to where most people are going, and it can be a bit difficult. But I just have to stand my ground,
Yep.
and I see it as a bit of a challenge sometimes. It's almost like you're facing down. I'm like a matador, and I'm facing down the bull. You see someone, and it's like, who's going to crack first?
Yeah.
There's that situation sometimes. You're kind of walking towards someone, and you're both on the same side. Who's going to fold? Who's going to be the real pussy here? And I feel like those are like the little victories in my life that I hold on to, even if it's just a child or an elderly person. I'm like, go on then, fucking
Hmm.
try it, you know.
That's where you're a better man than me, playing pedestrian chicken with the elderly. Elderly and children, I sort of excuse. I kind of think, well, they probably don't know any better. Either way, because one is mush for brains and the other one are elderly. Is this something that other people are offended by? Can you recall a time where you've thought, God, they're pavement hogging, or you've been inconvenienced by a fool in the middle of the road, by the lads on their night out who just won't budge? Let us know. Drop us a line. What have you
Yeah.
got, Tom? I can feel the blood boiling myself right now. I need some of your aggro. What's
No,
irking
no,
you?
calm down, calm down. What really gets me, it's another pedestrian based one. It's when you go to a crossing, right? And you press the light and you wait in there, and you've pressed it and it lights up as well. And then some fool comes along and they
Hmm.
press the button again. That really gets to me. It's saying several things. They're either saying, A, they don't trust me and think I'm some
Hmm.
sort of idiot, and I'm just stood at the light like a fucking lemon, just like I don't know how this technology works. And they look at him, look at that fool, like I'll press the button because he's clearly too stupid to have known to have pressed it. Or B, they think somehow that they have the gift. It won't work unless they've pressed it. How big are these people's egos? What it really boils down to is this sort of inherent mistrust in people in society.
Yeah. Whatever happened to loving thy neighbour?
Yeah,
There's also an element, isn't there, of that person is coming along and almost pitying you. You're unable to get where you need to go without their input or their help.
it undermines me. It's basically a big middle finger up to my face. I make a point when I go to a crossing and I see that someone's already there. I don't press the button.
Do you bow in respect?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Is that what you'd like
Um,
to see more of in faced with the same situation in the future? You're there, you're at the traffic light, you've just pressed the button, and a fellow comes along.
yeah.
Sorry, so a fella comes along. What in that situation is that he should then look at you, see that the button's been pressed, and just give you a polite nod to say thank you.
That's exactly what I want. I want a bit of respect because now he doesn't have the inconvenience of having to press the button. And in sort of this post-pandemic era, where we have to be careful about what sort of germs are spreading, you're not having to press a button that dozens of other people have pressed that day. It just gets to me at a visceral level. I don't know. I just can't let it go. Sometimes I then have to cross the road with these people.
Ugh.
And then, worst of all, they then sort of walk in the middle.
Or they cut you up.
That, that's a double whammy there when they press your button and then they walk across you.
What I've realised is in this episode, all we're giving people is the perfect tools to ruin our days. But you know what? We're sacrificial sheep. We're willing to be shot at. The bravest of folk put their neck on the line and they say, "Come on then, guillotine, do what you're gonna do." My neck's made of rubber. Do you think as well with these people, there's an element of control that is at the core of this decision? I think as well, there's a sense of everyone's rush is the most important. No one's rush is as important as yours, so to speak. So people walk very much with their heads down and just focusing on their own needs, and it's born out of a narcissistic view of the world, really. They don't think about the fact that you've already been there and you're waiting for these lights, and you could be thinking, God damn, I've only got 10 minutes to get to my appointment. But along comes Billy Big Presser.
Yeah, and then it's like, what? Like, you want me to then thank you for pressing the button? It's like, oh, thank you, sir. Thank you for coming along and doing that. I didn't know. And now you, with your Midas's touch,
Yeah.
you've stopped the lights magically. The nerve of some people, right? Who does that? Who goes and presses someone's button that's already been pressed? What kind of sick, perverted, twisted son of a gun does something like that? It's psycho behavior.
Yeah.
Studies probably would show the correlation between double pressing buttons at stoplights and being a serial killer. I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, the two are basically the same, aren't they? When you look at them as isolated incidents, at least serial killers, for the most part, respect traffic flow and have an etiquette to their procedure.
Yeah.
Not that we justify that behaviour. Might have to put out a disclaimer at the end of the episode. It's interesting that you mentioned on the context of the back of the pandemic, because that features poignantly in my next point. So it's something that always irks me, but also bemuses me, I suppose. I just don't really understand it, especially in the back of a world-breaking experience like that everyone was very aware of. And I understand there'd be a certain facet that, particularly on the back of that, do ascribe to this sort of view. But blokes that go to the toilet and don't wash their hands, particularly in the public house, particularly when you're in the boozer, you're chopping it up with boys, Weatherspoons, you've just gone to the bog, and there's the dad of four. You've seen this guy, he's there having a nice roast with his kids, whatever he's doing, and just not even a thought, straight in, straight out. Well, it's disgusting, if nothing else, at the core of it. But I find it baffling how many people don't pay any mind to hygiene. It's quite a macho trait, isn't it? You are the all-conquering beast and nothing can bring you down. And if I don't fear God himself, why would I fear tiny little bacterial germs? But the problem is it's a very selfish and inward-looking view. So it's seen as a macho trait, but I would argue that it's anything but. I would argue instead that a real man doesn't wish to potentially infect his family, his fellows, his friends, that a real man would instead value and acknowledge the responsibility he has to the self and to the others. I think as well, how little time and effort it actually takes to do something like washing your hands. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a 3-minute scrub. The soap's there, the water's there. Just do it. I thought it was bad enough how during COVID, the government had to put out public service announcements telling people to wash their hands. I never realised the scale of the problem before. Disgraceful, man. Did a bit of research on this as well. I found a very interesting stat. In an article published with iNews last year, Public Health Wales claimed that 69% of men don't wash their hands after going to the toilet. That's astounding to me.
For me, it's the lack of any shame. It's the lack of sort of any kind of self-respect and dignity. I just feel embarrassed going into a toilet and just walking straight out. How can these people live with themselves? Do they have no shame? It's crazy.
I think with shame, I think you're dead right, but I think it cuts the other way. I think for the macho man, because obviously neither of us are, so we have to try and peer into this mindset. It would almost appear shameful to have to lower oneself to the washing of the hands. and maybe the adhering to the constructs of the society we find ourselves in. Optimistic bias plays a part, which basically stipulates that we can be prone to think that bad things are less likely to happen to us than they are to others. So, again, the dude in that situation he's just had a lovely piss and he's decided, you know what, that Carlin sat there and waiting for me. I can't leave it 5 seconds or Bob's going to neck it. I need to get back out there, and I am the all-conquering, all-seeing alpha male. Am I hell going to be taken down by some little nuggety transmission of disease?
Whilst all these femboys are here lathering their hands with citrus and bergamot hand wash. No, thank you, sir. I mean, you call me crazy as well. I like going to like a place and they have good hand soap. There's a pub in Sheffield I like, the Lascar, and they're always rocking like really nice hand soap. Maybe like a sort of lavender and rose or something like that, something a bit floral, or maybe like a eucalyptus aloe vera. They've always got something quite nice, and I like that.
This is what
Yeah,
these guys are missing out on, all those wonderful flavours and scent,
yeah,
moisturised knuckles.
I know. What I hate is also when you have to exit a bathroom and you have to touch a door handle. And this is what weighs on my
Yeah.
mind is all these men who have gone in, gone for a piss, probably got a bit of back spray on their hands. Particularly if it's a trough style. For the
Yeah.
women out there that won't know this, but you might have like that sort of trough style urinal, and you get a bit of spray back. That's like a sort of fine pissy mist that's getting onto your hands. And then these filthy pigs are then going and touching the door handles. I've washed my hands, but then now I've got to face this challenge. I don't know if it really works, but sometimes I'll just put my sleeve over my hand, or I'll grab the door handle by the place where I think the least amount of people are touching it. Depending on the style of door handle, if it's like one of those big long bars, I'll try and grab it like right at the bottom. Where
Yeah.
most people go for a middle grab. There are some tactics at play, and it's all because of these selfish people who don't wash their hands. If we all washed our hands, I wouldn't have to worry about this. I wouldn't have to have a strategy when I'm exiting a public bathroom. I've got to think, right, do I have to put my sleeve up? What if it's summer and I'm just wearing a t-shirt? Then what?
Good lord.
That's a whole. Am I supposed to just wait here until someone comes in and then I can hook my foot around the door and then slip out? Yeah, it's just selfish behavior. And they don't realize the impact that they have on good, honest citizens like you and me, you know?
There's a running theme, I think, through some of the irks we've discussed, and that is that the convenience of the one man and the inconvenience it causes many others. Another crime that this cohort have to answer for is you never get open jars of peanuts at the pub anymore. I mean, how many people have taken every precaution? They've gone to a bar, they've thought, oh, some nuts, and they've ended up ingesting something they surely didn't bargain for or wish for because of Billy Bob's reluctance.
Yeah, all because you want to save yourself 30 seconds and to have your masculinity remain intact. But actually, you're not masculine. We're the masculine men. We're looking out for the vulnerable. I think we have like fairly decent immune systems, probably because we wash our hands. I think there needs to be more shaming. I don't know how, if they could possibly develop technology that when people walk out of a bathroom and they haven't washed their hands, like an alarm could go off or something like that. You know what I
Well,
mean?
just outside the restroom, you could have like an infrared scanner that goes over someone's hands and they would show, like ultraviolet maybe, and it would
Yeah,
show up the flecks. Or perhaps this is what we can get the listeners to do. Next time you're faced with this situation and someone walks out of that bathroom without washing their hands, you follow them out and you just keep on chanting, shame, 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 and pointing at them. And no doubt the whole pub will join up and engage in chorus with you. And that way, this person can really know the wrong they've done.
completely agree. I might do the same the next time I see someone.
I'll give it a go. I might get a black eye for my trouble.
That's a badge of honor. But you'll be punched with an unwashed hand. So I don't know. if you want to take that risk.
See, this is just the problem, isn't it? Every way you split it, these guys have got the upper hand.
Hey, just something else that gets to me
Go on.
is people who have really loud conversations on public transport. That irritates me to fuck. I'll give you an example. Because usually, as well, what I find is usually they think they're really funny. That this is like some kind of conversation that everyone should be privy to. I was on a train recently, and these two men got on in their 50s, old enough to know better, really, old enough to know that no one gives a shit, right? But they get on and they're just having the loudest conversation. I was trying to read at the time, and I couldn't concentrate on my book because these two men were just having a conversation. They were trying to be all sort of like bantery, and they were a good, they were about halfway down the carriage from me, and I could
Hmm.
hear every word they were saying. And it's just like, what do you think? We're like your audience. You're just so funny, and that you're gonna perform for everyone here, and we can all just bask in your glory and your humor. Oh, thank you for making this dull train journey entertaining with your wit and your quips with each other, your endless banter. It's just, it's rejuvenated me. No, no, that's not the case. Right, I'm trying to read. I'm trying to have a peaceful train journey. You're not even funny, and that's the worst thing. It's like if you're gonna be that loud group, if you're gonna be that loud duo or trio or quartet or how many whoever there are of you, at least have something entertaining to say. But they don't, because if they were entertaining, they wouldn't have that insecurity where they need people to listen to them and validate them. If we're on a train together, we know we're the two funniest people on that train. We don't need everyone else to know it.
Exactly, and that's why we whisper.
We hand sign on the train.
Hand sign and shorthand. It's a stage, isn't it? It's a stage for you to act. You have a captive audience. Yeah, it smacks of desperation, doesn't it? And just a lack of consideration, once again, for the fellow man, for whatever situation someone might be going through. And a train is a space for all, so it must accommodate all. Many people wish to read their books on the train. In that situation where you're commuting for say nearly an hour, and like jokers like that get on at the second stop, and you think, oh my god, it could be enough to sour your day before it's begun. You get into the office and you just think, ugh, which you should do anyway because capitalism and such. It should at least be of your own choosing.
Yeah, it's just disrespectful. Or it's the same when people play music out loud on their phone, or again, I was on a train recently, and some woman I think was just like just like watching like videos or something on like Instagram, but just or like TikTok, one of those awful platforms we all hate. And again, just turn the volume. I don't need to listen to that. Get some headphones. Or there was a guy opposite me fucking singing on the train. No, thank you. Where do you think you are? On stage? No, you're on the train. Don't sing a song.
You're not going to get the record deal this way, mate.
It's selfish. It's inconsiderate. I think it should be criminalized. I really do. I think it's a public nuisance offence, is what it is. I had every right, really, to go to the British Transport Police and report this man. I didn't because I wanted to save myself the hassle. I'm a busy individual, but I
Mm.
would have had a strong case, and this man would have probably been put behind bars, you know, like that. He wouldn't have even needed a trial, straight to jail, and everyone would get that. What's the charge? You sang on the train, you fucking sick bastard. Straight to maximum
Yeah.
security.
Oh, yeah, you can't take any chances with these kind, can you?
No.
There is almost an argument to bring back the death penalty for instances such as that. I consider it as serious an offence as treason. Actually, no, more so. I consider it more offensive because I actually think that treason should be decriminalised because we need more treason in this country. But that's a whole other world to peel the wrapper of. And right now, my hands are tied. I would say though, for Mr. Singer on the train, if he ended up behind bars, it'd be the perfect situation for him because inmates probably want to hear some singing. He'd be able to hone his practice. The acoustics, I've been told, are excellent. I don't know if you see this so much on trains, but another thing that really grinds my gears, and this wasn't a subconscious intention that all these seem to be linked with overt displays of masculinity, but it just so happens that that seems to be the source of a lot of my irk in the world. And of course, there is a time or a place for this. You know, everyone's had a cold, and everyone's tongue palace has filled up with unsavory mucus from time to time, and you give it to the sink. You donate it, don't you? But spitting in public, it's wrong. It's wrong as wrong gets. It's rancid. I never think there's a need for it. What annoys me a lot about it as well is that dudes, all women, you know, you see females do it. They think they're hot shit when they've done a spit. They walk away with such a gravitas, like it's an earth shattering moment, whether consciously or subconsciously. Because I think a lot of people do it without necessarily realizing this as such. But it is a display of masculinity. You know, it's almost like a Neanderthal behavior. And this day and age, there is just no need for it. Even spitting out a gum, I don't really think that's right. I think you should just be able to leisurely discard it into your palm and then place into bin. Just like with, you know, not washing one's hands, spitting, which is actually defined in the Cambridge Dictionary as a forceful ejection of saliva from the mouth, which is very true. I wouldn't disagree with that, but it's just a bit of a pointed sentence, isn't it? And a forceful ejection. It's inherently linked to an expression of masculinity. As the definition pens it, it is literally a show of force. I think
Hmm.
there's an element of compensation to a spit. Maybe a man that doesn't really feel that he is the man he should be, but to get 10% closer, he's going to hawk one right from the back of his throat. That's horrible as well when you're actually close enough to hear the pre-spittle effects.
It's such a vile thing to witness that no one really should have to witness. No man should see these things. Particularly as you said, when they really build up to it, you're really getting
Mm.
it in the back of the throat. That I won't imitate the sound because no one deserves to hear that. We all know what it sounds like.
That would be so funny, wouldn't it, if we're deriding it on the podcast and then we just give you like the worst example ever? No, we're not going to do that. We're not. We're not.
But no,
No.
you're right. It's for me, it almost kind of like these men are also, not just displaying a forceful act of masculinity. It's also kind of like marking their territory in a way, isn't it?
Yep.
It's similar to like a cat pissing on a tree. You mark this particular area with your fluid. It's the same thing. It's the same principle, and it's no one's really spitting anywhere nice, are they? That it's usually some kind of like
Never. Yeah.
grim area, some horrible rundown play park that they're claiming with their fluid.
Maybe in that sense we've misinterpreted it, and it's an expression of dissatisfaction. It is a Jeremiad in phlegm work.
Mm.
It's people demarking their disavowal with modern society and what they see around them, and they think, God, it couldn't get any worse, so I might as well add my flavour. Spitting noise. I found an interesting bit of scholarly research upon spitting. Herbert Gomberg writes about the phallic significance of spitting. He added to Lewin's 20th century observation that the ejection of fluid from the mouth can represent urination or ejaculation. Herbert himself states that there is an element of sadomasochism in the act of the spit. Now, again, that's occurring in the subconscious of the spitter. And I wouldn't really say that I disagree with it. You can kind of see that it's a manifestation, perhaps, of the oppressed nature of this certain character. Maybe he's, like you say, with the marking of the territory, the urination. That's along a similar stream.
Yeah, I mean it's all fluid, isn't it? It's
It certainly is. It's liquid.
well, I mean, there's obviously sort of spitting in a sexual way, isn't there? That does do it for some people. That degrading nature. By making me a witness to them spitting, even just on the ground, it sort of degrades me a bit. It's adjacent degrading.
Maybe that's where the satisfaction is derived then. That the spitter wishes for an audience to witness his masterful display, almost like it's a conquest.
I definitely think there's something to it. There's no point spitting if there's no one there to witness it. The thicker and the greener and the more disgusting, the better, really. And how much distance can you get on it as well?
Now you just sound like a 14-year-old boy. Do you have one more?
This is more specific to a particular group of people. The group of people I'm talking about is writers and authors. And something that just, I don't know why, it just winds me up so fucking much is when a writer uses too many cultural references and sort of like brand names and real life things. I remember reading this one book by an author called David Mitchell, not David Mitchell of Mitchell and Webb.
Hmm.
And this thing, it was just littered with product placement and cultural references like songs and films and stuff, other books, other writers, and all these things. And I think it's good to use these things in writing to say something about the character or give the reader an idea of the time period or what sort of things they're into, or just add a bit of color, a bit of real world things that we can connect to. But if they do it too much, to me it's annoying. It's just lazy because they don't have to describe this thing. They can just say what it is, and people will know. I end up just rage reading. Uh, Another culprit, Nick Hornby. It's just like, oh, Marcus drank his Diet Lilt and ate his Kit Kat, and he wanted his mum to take him to McDonald's. And it's like, oh, well done, Nick. These things are real. These exist. Fucking use your imagination a bit more.
Well,
It gets to me.
it's a cop out, isn't it? If nothing else, really, you could describe the thing without actually mentioning it, but still have that picture clear as day in your audience's mind. You could call it impotent writing if you have to rely on the real world groundings that much. But it also serves massively to scupper the element of fantasy or the imaginative aspect that we all love and appreciate with storytelling that's just completely boycotted. For what reason? For what reason? Because it's easier for you to write. So again, we've got the man conveniencing himself to inconvenience a mass audience. Bloody hell. No, I do share that irk with you.
I've always sort of felt a bit insecure about this one. I feel like it's just me sometimes. No, it's a surefire way to put me off any work of literature. Like I say, I think there is an acceptable amount, and sometimes
Yeah.
it can enhance a story and it can serve a story well, but it has to be done in moderation. It has to be appropriate. You can't just be shoehorning this stuff in. And yeah, again, I've done this before. I called out Peter Drury, the commentator, previously. I'm going to call out David Mitchell. If you happen to listen to this, let's have a fight.
We're still waiting to hear back from Peter. And
Mm,
on Tom's behalf, what I'm willing to do right now is to open the floor for you, Peter Drury, because we know you're listening. We know you're out there,
mm,
you little weasel. And you, David Mitchell, but not that David Mitchell, to
no,
team up, and Tom will still take you both down.
I will. It still wouldn't be a fair fight because I would absolutely batter them.
You'd be nothing. You'd be like a microphone after Buster Rhymes is done with it.
Now that's the kind of spitting I can get behind.
Oh, perfect. Oh my god. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of spittle ejected as the roads are filled, fashionably blocked from the sides to the middle, and in the midst of the chaos. Hygiene isn't deemed a worthy issue, but the crumbs of fung left produce conditions necessary to precipitate rusting of the metals now brittle we once built these pillars with. Erected tall, worshipped like pyramids, they are but seconds from caving in, yet here we thrust further into depraved dreams of forsaking. The convenience of one is the con of all, devolved into no more than four-legged rats squirming to encage paradise, inside a feces-laden hall comprising four walls that pack us ever closer to mortal sin, and further from where progress begins.